Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today we are going to be doing a romance recommendations video. Very recently I did a my top romantasy recs video, and I can't remember, I feel like somebody requested romance one. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I wanted to do a romance recommendations video regardless, since fantasy and then romance are my top two genres that I read. So yeah, I have a stack of books over here. I have like 10. There are more right here on the shelves behind me that I might add in, I don't know, but like these ones that I'm about to go over are like the ones that come to the top of my mind when I think of books, romance books that I would be recommending to other people. Also, I don't know how I feel about this semi-slicked back pony. I literally just like brushed it back into a low ponytail, which I never do, because I feel like I look like an egg. But here we are. Anyway, we're gonna move on past that, and in no particular order, I'm just gonna, whatever book I pick up is the one we're gonna talk about. So my first recommendation is My Roommate is a Vampire. Are these showing up backwards? My first recommendation is going to be My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I love these books. I recently, like this past year, read A Vampire Plus One, which is behind me, which is the second book in this, interconnected standalone. And this follows Cassie Greenberg and Frederick Fitzwilliam. For one, I love that his name is Frederick. He is a vampire, as the title suggests, and he is like very old. He is stuck way back in, I don't even know, like the 1800s or something. Like he wears a three-piece suit and talks very proper and doesn't know what a cell phone is. And so that aspect made this book really like unique and hilarious. These are definitely rom-coms. Like don't go into these thinking that and you can probably tell by the cover, like this is gonna be a silly, goofy, fun time. And that's exactly what it gave me, and it's exactly what I wanted. I found Frederick to be really sweet. I liked their relationship. I just loved the vibes of this story. And there's also like mixed media in here. You have, I think they're texts. Yeah, you have texts. You might get like emails, I can't remember. You get letters. So I love any type of book that includes that like mixed media aspect. It just is perfect. I loved this so much that I had to pre-ordered My Vampire Plus One and got it like signed by the author and everything, because I am obsessed with the series. I think the third one is coming out maybe end-ish of this year. Don't quote me on that. I think I saw that and I'm really excited. So highly, highly recommend My Roommate is a Vampire if you are a fan of cute, funny rom-coms. That's what this one was. Now, my next recommendation is a lot more of like a serious vibe romance. For me at least, it was deeply emotional, and that is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I will never, after reading this, I will never forget Jacob. Jacob is so close to my heart, and this follows Jacob and Dr. Brianna Ortiz. So they're both doctors, which is fun. I feel like I don't actually read a lot of romance books with doctors. Don't know why. I love that dynamic. It kind of gives like Grey's Anatomy, if you will. But the main thing that I remember being so like poignant about this was Jacob, and his anxiety was like very real, relatable to me. He has really bad anxiety, and Brianna knows exactly like what to say to him, and just the way that she treats him, like he's not broken and that he's not, crazy or different or anything like that. I really appreciated that and loved that. So the anxiety rep in here is great. I feel like from the books, I've only read like 2 Abby Jimenez books at this point, but I feel like from what I've heard and from what I've read of her, she tends to put more serious elements in her books. Like you have grief and sometimes, sick family members and really tough kind of real life things that the characters have to overcome as a part of a really deep emotional romance story. And that just makes the connection between the two main characters so much better. And I wouldn't say that this is like overly spicy book. I don't think that Abby Jimenez's books are like super spicy. It's more about that emotional connection, and then what you do get of their physical relationship is made even better by that. So if that is something that you were looking for, you want something that's got a little bit more you want like something a little bit more heavy hitting, this one is for you. This one caught me by surprise. I remember reading it I was like in the car waiting for my husband to do something. It just like really, this book was really hitting me emotionally and bringing a lot of emotions out of me, and it just kind of took me by surprise. So yeah, do with that what you will. Again, highly recommend. I did annotate the crap out of this as well. So many heartfelt things happened in this book that like just made me sob. And it's also dual point of view, so I also really love getting to see both characters' thoughts, getting to be inside of both of their heads. I always feel like a dual point of view romance gives you that much more. So yeah, before I go on and on about this and read all of my quotes, which I don't have time to do right now, highly recommend. Don't sleep on this one. My next recommendation for you is The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce. I read this one like kind of late last year, I feel like, and this one kind of reminds me of the vibes of Happy Place. So if you liked Happy Place by Emily Henry, you liked the fact that those characters had a past, you know, because it's second chance, and if you liked that kind of, again, more emotional connection type of romance, then I highly recommend picking this one up. This one follows Georgia and Eli Mora. It is a second chance romance because they're exes, and they are kind of forced to work together to get I think it's like their best friend married. Yeah, the wedding of their mutual best friend, Adam. And everything keeps going wrong to like the point of it being hilarious. So you have two juxtapositions. You have the juxtaposition, I should say, of second chance romance where they have a really good emotional, deep connection. But then you also have that like hilarity of all these crazy things happening, getting thrown at them to mess up this wedding, right? And it does get to a point where you're like, okay, that's just silly. But I kind of liked the, again, juxtaposition of the levity with the deeper emotional aspects, and I found this to be really great. I absolutely binged this. Like a lot of people that I have heard talk about this, I also binged this, and it was great. This is a very summery type read. If you can tell by the cover, it like takes place at a vineyard. So says they rush up to Napa Valley, their old chemistry comes back. That's basically, I feel like, all you need to know. So good, highly recommend. I also read You with a View by Jessica Joyce, but I liked that one too, but The X-Vows is like on a whole nother level to me. It is one that I fear I have never shut up about, and this is my favorite in the series, but I recommend the series as a whole, and that is the Chestnut Springs series. Specifically, my favorite book is Heartless by Elsie Silver. These books are like cowboy country-esque romances, and they're all interconnected standalones. So you follow brothers and also their like best friend that also kind of like grew up with them in separate books. This book is Cade Eaton's book, is grumpy single dad meets like wild like nanny trope. Elsie Silver just has a way of taking all of these very common sought after tropes and making them better somehow, making them unique, making them better. She kind of takes a lot of different tropes and puts them in a tornado together that just works so perfectly every time. Her books are spicy. They are, yeah, open door romance is very spicy. So just know that. But whatever her formula is, it works every single time, because not only do I recommend the Chestnut Springs series, but I also highly recommend her, I think it's called the Rose Hill series. So Wild Love, Wild Eyes, and Wild Side. Now, Wild Love, the first one in that series, wasn't like my favorite, but the second two books in that series were like 5-star top tier. So I do recommend pretty much anything and everything by Elsie Silver. If you're looking for summer vibes, you're looking for cowboys, ranches, bull riders, and like just, they're guilty pleasure reads. Like you just eat them right up. I swear, I'm pretty sure almost every single book in this series I either binged in 1 or 2 sittings, because I could not, physically just could not put them down. So make sure that you are ready to completely be absorbed. But yeah, this series will forever be one of my like god tier romance series, and I can't wait to reread them one day. Heartless is by far my favorite. And now back to another very sweet, like emotional type romance. we have Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This was so sweet and also unexpected because the whole point of this book is that it's like the pregnancy trope, and that's right on the back. Like, that's the whole point of this book. She has a one-night stand. Win. Yeah, so this follows Win and Bo. They have a one-night stand which turns into unexpected pregnancy, and they kind of have to obviously like work together. And this was just so sweet. It hit me so much harder than I thought it would. I loved the representation of people with differing abilities, because our main character, and this is in the author's note too, this is a topic that's very near and dear to the author's heart, which is that she has a limb difference. So like one of her hands is a little smaller than the other, and so it really dives deep into those inner monologues of struggling with this, right? This difference in limb. And I just found it really, really raw and honest and so good. And then Bo also has kind of like a disability of his own that he's working through. And the way that these two like come together and become like best friends is so good. So freaking good. And Bo is the epitome of a golden retriever boyfriend. He's like nerdy and adorable and just wants the best for Win, and he's constantly going out of his way to like do little things for her. So I love that. This book does very closely follow her entire pregnancy. But anyway, just know that this does very closely follow pregnancy symptoms, the whole pregnancy journey. So if that is like something that's not for you, triggering for you, maybe avoid this. But this is so cute. Highly, highly recommend. One of my favorites of last year. Next up, I have a book that I feel is not really talked about often. Like, I don't see it talked about often. In my opinion, it's underrated, and that is Truly, Madly, Deeply by Alexandria Bellefleur. Hopefully I'm saying that right. This follows best-selling romance novelist Truly Livingston and Colin McCrory, who I believe Colin is like a lawyer or something lawyer adjacent, if I remember correctly. The other day, I was actually thinking about this book, and I picked it up just to like read back through some of my favorite scenes, because this book for me was visceral. I don't know what it was about this that just caught me. I think partially it was because oh, sorry, the sun's like crazy. The main male character depicted here like looks just like Joe Keery to me. And if you know me, you know that I have a crush on Joe Keery. I love him in Stranger Things, and the main male character on this cover looks to me just like him. So the entire time I was picturing him, and that just made this experience even better. Highly recommend, you know, if you have like a favorite, I don't know, celebrity or something, picturing them in a romance book that you love, because the experience was great. I was picturing it as a movie in my head. But yeah, this book was very different, I feel like, from anything I've ever read romance-wise. Like, it was very unique, and it definitely had some tropes that I feel like some people don't like, which is maybe why I don't hear this one talked about that often. But something about it, all of it worked for me. This is, again, on the spicier side, so just know that. It kind of is a little bit of like an attraction, lust-forward relationship, but the way that the author does it doesn't bother me, I guess. I don't know. Also, yeah, this book, I think both characters are bi, and I don't feel like I have read a lot of books like that, and I really appreciated that about this one. They have really open conversations about everything, and I don't know, I loved how like open and honest they were with each other. Also, there is a scene in here that lives rent-free in my head. The door scene, if you know, you know, you must read, because wow. This is another case where the main male character is like down bad for her. Like, he would do anything for her, would crawl in the dirt for her. He literally says at one point, "You could spit on me and I would say thank you." And I was like, I don't know what it is, but this book had me like sweating. So yeah, if you're looking for a bingeable, spicy, unique read, highly recommend this one. I loved this one. Again, it's not for everyone. I don't think it's for everyone, but at the time that I read it, it was definitely for me. So I do recommend giving this one a try if any of that sounds intriguing to you. And then this next one is a much more recent recommendation. I think I talked about it in a reading blog recently. So this won't be the first time that you've seen this book on my channel, but First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This is a newer release, just came out this year. And wow, this was just one of those books that was like deeply, deeply romantic. This is kind of inspired by Sleepless in Seattle. So if you've seen that movie and you liked that, check this out. But this follows Aiden Valentine, who is the host of like a radio show where people call in for, I don't know if it's like advice on relationships, but they call in and they talk about love and their relationships, and Aiden is the host. And then you have Lucy Stone, our main female character, who's she's kind of been out of the dating world because she has high expectations, but she also kind of expects the love that she wants to just fall in her lap, which obviously is not how it works. So you have that dynamic, but she's also kind of, like I said, given up. And then you have Aiden, who works on this love radio show and then ironically no longer really believes in love. So it's like that kind of typical trope. They become, I would say, like friends first. There's the forced proximity aspect because she is on the radio show. I loved this. I loved the vibes of it. This was one of those books that just had a really strong presence, and I was getting kind of like 80s, 90s vibes, like kind of, I don't know, that just like that era. I was getting those vibes from this, and I love that era, so love this. Highly recommend. Gave it 5 stars. Absolutely ate it up. It did have a little bit of a slow start, I would say, but it's so worth it. So 2 of my top auto-buy romance authors. This will be a surprise, I feel like, to nobody what these next 2 are, but this next one is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Basically, I recommend pretty much anything by Ali Hazelwood. I have loved every single book that I've read from her, and I think I've read everything except for like her little collection of short stories. Deep End, I gave 5 stars. I loved Check and Mate. That was a high 4 stars. Love on the Brain was 4 stars. Even the ones that I feel like people don't really like Not in Love and Bride, I gave, I believe, in the high 4 stars. But my favorites are definitely Deep End, and then The Love Hypothesis, and then Love Theoretically. And as we probably all know, Ali is known for includes women in STEM a lot in her books, which is a really fun, unique aspect. Also, she is very, very smart, very witty. Like every time I read her books, I find myself laughing out loud and just kind of awed at how smart she is. Like some of it is so smart that it goes over my head. But anyway, if you like that mixed with spicy romance, just really fun times, good banter, then yeah, like I said, I would recommend anything by her, but I do specifically recommend Deep End because this, like I said, is like my new favorite Ali Hazelwood, I feel like, and this follows Scarlett Vandermeer, who is a diver, and Lucas, and I butcher this every time, Blomqvist? I have a really hard time saying his name. I think it's like, is it Swedish? Something like that. But anyway, he's a swimmer, she's a diver, they both go to Stanford, and they both seem a little neurodivergent, I guess, but also they both kind of have this shared want to explore kinks, and so that's how they kind of come together. I know a lot of people don't really love that it's the best friend Pen who is the one that kind of is like, you guys should try dating. And they don't like that because she's the ex, and I definitely agree with that, and I definitely think that the best friend is in here a lot. But I didn't find it so bad that it like deterred my enjoyment of this or my high rating of this. I still really enjoyed this for what it was. And I would say just don't go into this expecting like it to be crazy kinky or anything. To me, it made sense that it wasn't. I think it made sense for the context of them being in college. They're very young. They, you know, are interested in this thing, but they're not really like heavily exploring it, if that makes sense. So if you go into this with an open mind, you look forward to having, you know, an Ali Hazelwood level good time. I think that's what you get from this. So yeah, I recommend this one because it was one of my absolute favorites. I felt like the swimming and diving aspect was really unique. You also follow very closely Scarlett's journey as she is dealing with kind of like a mental block in her career. So you get some of her little snippets of like therapy sessions. I'm back. My memory card apparently was out of space, so I had to go delete some old stuff, make room for some new stuff, and I have at least one book left in my pile. Again, I don't know, I might do some like honorable mentions here, but the last book that I really wanted to mention is again by an author who I recommend all of her works, and that is Emily Henry. Specifically, I wanted to talk about Funny Story because Funny Story is my new favorite Emily Henry book. This follows Miles and Daphne. I feel like Miles is a unique love interest. Like, I feel like the love interests in stories are always like, they have their shit together, or even if they don't have their shit together, like they are handsome and tall and like they look like a model and they're just like perfect in every way, right? And that's just not super realistic. And I don't know, I really liked that like Miles was giving normal dude. Like Miles was giving Nick from New Girl. Loved him. He wears Crocs. He like smokes weed. He gets sad. He's in the very like beginning of this book, he's like in his room, clearly sad, watching TV at a very high volume. I can't remember if it's TV or music, but he's like listening to something at a very high volume and like smoking weed and just like he's just in his feels, right? And I don't know, I just loved Miles. And also the reasoning behind these two characters like coming together, I feel like is really unique. They both get dumped by their partners and their exes are like together, and that's why they broke up with each of them respectively, which is like, okay, the chances of that happening is kind of wild and out there, but I found that to be really fun. So they both end up being kind of down and out and basically thrown out of their living situations, and so they decide, why not be roommates? So you also have that forced proximity and roommates aspect, which I always really enjoy. And I think this is also a really good example of two people that just like kind of become friends first. I really like friends to lovers. I think that the more realistic aspect of friends to lovers always makes for such a deep emotional connection, and therefore makes the physical aspect and the rest of the story just feel so much more real and like better. I don't know, could be just me, but I love friends to lovers, and so this is kind of what that was to me. I also really liked the setting. I think they're in Michigan. Also, this book is like making me glow. Waning Bay, Michigan. So I loved the setting. I can't wait to reread this because I thought this was so freaking good. When I read Happy Place, I thought that was my new favorite Emily Henry, and then I read this one and I was like, wait, no, I love them both, but I think Funny Story takes the cake for me. I love Happy Place too, but Happy Place has kind of, ironically, given that the name is Happy Place, it kind of has like an undertone of sadness to the entire thing. Like growing up and kind of growing apart from your friends, and there was just a lot of sadness. So I do like that book, but I much prefer books with happier tones. But regardless, I recommend both. Like I said, I recommend everything by her. I also really love People We Meet on Vacation, but I read it so long ago that I don't feel like I can do it justice or like accurately talk about anything specific in the book other than I love Alex and Poppy. The fact that I can remember their names is a feat unto itself. So I definitely need to reread my Emily Henrys because, again, my journey with Emily Henry started like, I don't even know, 3 or 4 years ago. So a lot of those I don't really remember. But anyway, highly recommend Emily Henry as an author as a whole, but Funny Story specifically if you want something that's more of a realistic vibe. I don't know, I just found it to be unique and refreshing. That's the word I'm looking for. It felt really refreshing, and I cannot wait to reread this. But yeah, those are all of my like formal recommendations that I kind of lined up for this video. But if I had to do some honorable mentions, let's look at my bookshelf real quick. The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. I also really loved The Nanny and The Game Changer, but I would say The Fake Mate is my favorite. Just know that that one is very much like Omegaverse coded. So like if Bride by Ali Hazelwood wasn't your thing, this one probably also won't be your thing because it's like very spicy and also like I said, kind of Omegaverse-y. But if that is something that you like, highly recommend The Fake Mate and just Lana Ferguson in general. I don't know, I just love her books. I mean, I loved all of these, that's why they're on my shelf, but I feel like these were just not as standout to me as the ones that I just mentioned. Oh, Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. That's another one that I read so long ago that I feel like I can't say much about it, but this one's also like childhood friends to lovers, second chance kind of vibes, and I remember it being really, really sweet. Again, read it so long ago that I feel like I can't say much, but honorable mention. And then another honorable mention would be Georgie All Along by Kate Claiborne. This is another one that I feel like I don't hear anybody talk about, but when I read it years and years ago, I devoured it. I loved it. I remember that the main male character's name is Levi, so the fact that I can remember his name is a good sign. And this one's like small town. She comes back to her small town. She knows Levi from her past, but he was always kind of like a troublemaker, like a troubled kid kind of a thing. And her parents ask him to take care of their house while they're away. But they forget that they also tell Georgie that she can come home and stay at their house. So they kind of have that fun little clash at the beginning where they're like, who are you? Why are you here? No, I'm supposed to be here. No, you're not supposed to be here. That kind of a thing. So you get like the forced proximity, and I love a man with some trauma who is maybe misunderstood, and then the female main character takes the time to like get to know them and uncover all of that. And wow, the fact that I even had anything to say about the fact that I read it so long ago must mean something. And I think I read this in summer, and I just remember loving it and soaking up every moment. So I highly recommend this one as well. Honorable mention for sure. I need to reread this one as well because I think this is one of the first romancy books that I kind of got into when I was getting like re-obsessed with reading. So definitely recommend that one. Another honorable mention is The Magic of Lemon Drop Pie. This one's very unique, I feel like. It's got the magical realism aspect to it. I think it's her aunt has these like lemon drops, and like I think you can go in the past. I don't know. I really enjoyed this. I also really, really like the cover. So this is another honorable mention, especially if you like magical realism. I feel like I don't end up loving a lot of magical realism books, but I do remember this one being really fun. So yeah, those are all of my recommendations for the most part. Ta-da! Oh! Ah! Shit. But I would love to know, what are your romance recommendations? What are your favorite romance books? Give me some recommendations based on what I just recommended, based on my taste. What other books do you think I might like? I would love to know. I always love getting recommendations. And if you've watched the entire video, thank you so much. Appreciate you for being here. I hope you took away even one recommendation. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.